Hello viewers, this is Sme TV, the program that brings you business information, innovation and solutions. My name is Caleb Aiku. Over the next 5 segments, I will give you my take on employee engagement. In our Entrepreneur of the Day segment, we'll be speaking to Stuart Gold. He is the CEO and founder of Trashy Bags. We will have Dr. Gordon Adumja join us for a discussion on business innovation. Dr. Adumja is a visiting professor at the China-Europe International Business School. We will also have a book review by Stuart Gold. The title of the book is The Blind Watchmaker. Before we end this episode, I will give you the business tip of the day, and now to my take on employee engagement. One of the most challenging tasks of all managers is to fully engage employees. Most employees come to work with only half of their abilities. If a manager is able to switch on an employee, the employee comes to work with all of their abilities. But how do you do this? 3 things are very critical. Number 1, put every employee in their strongest position. Number 2, ensure that every employee has varied or flexible time. Don't box everybody in to come to work at 8 and close at 5. Manage them by outcomes. And number 3, ensure that you understand what motivates each employee. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back, viewers, to our Entrepreneur of the Day segment. Today we are speaking to Mr. Stuart Gold. He's an architect by training. In 2008, he founded Trashy Bags in Ghana. We'll be speaking to him about social enterprises and the processes he used to set up his company. Welcome, Stuart.
Thank you.
Stuart, let's begin by trying to understand what led to the identification of the business opportunity and what exactly are you doing?
Okay, let me just explain what we do.
Yes.
We're a social enterprise, and we collect waste plastic.
Right.
Normally in the form of water sachets, used drinking water sachets.
Right.
And we don't melt it down. We literally clean it and stitch it into different products.
Right.
Bags, computer sleeves, all sorts of things. So, the impetus for this came very early on when I came to Ghana.
Right.
And I saw that I had a business partner here at the time, and we saw that the environment was very, very bad. It was full of plastic.
Right.
And we did see the opportunity with the water sachets that something could be done with that. Not all plastic can be treated in that way, but we felt we could do that, and then we started to get interest even abroad for the products we were making.
Right. So you chose the social enterprise route. Mm-hmm. So it's a non-profit company. I'm wondering why you didn't.
Okay, well, actually, there's a misconception, I believe, about social enterprises being non-profit.
Right.
Because they don't have to be.
I see.
A social enterprise is a quite loosely defined term, and it usually refers to a company. It can be profit or non-profit, that is started up with the intention of solving a particular either social, usually, or environmental problem. But because of that, they're normally not for profit. But then they can change into a for-profit company and still be a social enterprise.
I see. So it's yours a for-profit or?
It's non-profit.
It is non-profit.
At the moment, it's definitely non-profit.
Right.
But it would be very nice one day to create a profit-making enterprise, so that my staff could feel they could own part of that. Otherwise, right. At the moment, there's no ownership.
That's right. So you have to find different ways of raising
That's
funds
the thing.
to sustain?
Well, you know, we raise funds through donations, but we also raise funds through what we sell. And we are able to accept funds that are donated because we're a non-profit. Not because we're a social enterprise, but because we're a non-profit and an NGO in this country. So, and that has to be for the moment. But when we really can sell our products and we don't need funding anymore, then we would like to turn into a for-profit company, which is what Africa needs. We need more companies that are making profit.
Right, right. Let's look a bit at how and why you would transition from earning good money as an architect, I mean, to suddenly say, no, I want to solve a problem. What triggered that?
I was a young architect,
right?
But I've always been fascinated by ideas,
right?
And so I actually went into computer-aided design very early on after I qualified, and I in Britain at the time, it was very early on. We're talking 1978,
right? And
so I helped to really develop cutting-edge applications then for computer-aided design, but decided I wanted to go into mainstream computers, which I did, developing database software. And then I went into something called collaborative virtual environments, which is, in a way, like architecture within virtual space.
Okay.
And I was very interested in that, developed that for many years.
I see, I see.
But then Ghana, you know, I was coming to Ghana anyway, and for other reasons, and I changed my whole life really by doing what I'm doing now. But I saw a problem, and I wanted to help solve that.
Great. Is there room for scaling what you are currently doing, and how would that work?
Well, we should be able to scale it, but you know, we're still at the stage really of exploring the market. You know, there has to be a market for these things.
Yes.
You know, without a market, it's very difficult to scale. So, I was very interested in the innovation segment you were doing, because I'm very much into innovation, and that companies have to know when to stop something they're doing and completely change course.
Right.
And somebody mentioned to me recently an old adage that I'd forgotten, which is one of the definitions of madness is where you keep doing the same thing, yes, and expect different results. And in business, that's what we can often do. We can just stay doing the same thing, thinking, oh, tomorrow will be better, next week will be better, next year will be better. But you know, you have to know in business when to drop that and start something else.
Yes.
Because you're lost otherwise. And we're still at that stage, looking for the right way in, the right angles to get into the market. Right.
In terms of marketing your products, how do you go about it? This is a product that is not known. Nobody else markets that.
Well, we do have products that are in competition with other companies around the world. I mean,
right.
We make bags from used billboards as well, and that is common around the world, and that's one of our problems. We're competing from Ghana, which isn't that easy. But the other products we make from water sachets are pretty unique. I mean, outside Ghana, people haven't seen that. And I think that has its own very specific approach, because it's a very environmental project, it's a very environmental product. So in that way, with environmentalism being at the top of everyone's agenda these days, that it should, and it has found, you know, quite a niche, but it's always about trying to expand that niche.
Right,
you know.
Right. And within Ghana, it means you're not doing a lot of sales. Most of your products go outside Ghana.
We do sell to people here, but they're usually the foreigners. There is a perception in Ghana that they would like the labels on their bags and accessories that are the well-known labels in the developed world, the Gucci's and so on. And also there's a sort of stigma about handling their own waste plastic, that they haven't quite figured out here how what a kind of cool idea it is. I think that will come, but it's common with a lot of countries, not just Africa, it's Asia as well. You see Europe and America much more advanced when it comes to reducing, reusing, recycling, and kind of thinking about materials in a different way.
In Rwanda, for instance, there's a total ban
That's right.
on plastics. So if we ever have such a situation here, does it mean the business ceases to exist?
It would be a challenge, and that again is one of the challenges for innovation. You know, to try to figure out what you can do with the goodwill and the name you've created, and the fact you're a social enterprise trying to solve problems, and find something else related to that you can solve, maybe a different material,
yes,
or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
So at that stage, you probably innovate and do something else.
Yes, definitely have to innovate.
Right. Now, is there anything you would say in terms of the character of the entrepreneur that is important? There's the knowledge part. What about the character?
Yeah, you see, somebody who works for a company who gets a job and they just work, they don't usually want to be entrepreneurs because they're just happy to come in at 8 in the morning, work till 5 or whatever, and they want to forget their work and they don't want to think too hard. And that's the majority of people. An entrepreneur has to basically be with his project in his mind the whole time. Nighttime, daytime, sitting, eating lunch, because the entrepreneur has to guide the organization and some of his staff, but usually the responsibility is on the entrepreneur. And that's where the innovation comes and the guidance, and it's a bit lonely there at the top, but because you know that your staff are a bit like a machine, they'll just carry on doing what you give them a direction, they'll carry on.
Yes.
And that's the big difference.
Yes. But I assume everyone can make that transition.
But not everyone wants to.
Okay.
I mean, really, it's a hard life, and I
because
think
it's a hard life.
Yeah, it's a hard life, and I'm more obviously sometimes envious of some of my staff who don't have the pressures I have, because it's. I mean, look, there are different professions that, for example, as an architect, you're working for a company, but you have to innovate all the time. You have to, because you're designing something new all the time.
Yes.
So in a way, there's a crossover there.
Right.
But I'm used to that. I'm used to having to think about a new project all the time and new ways of doing things, new ways of getting people to people's heads, new ways of marketing. You have to think on your feet as an entrepreneur.
Mr. Stuart Gold, thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
We'll be right back, viewers. Welcome, viewers, to our discussion on business innovation. I have with me Dr. Gordon Adumja. He's a visiting professor at the China-Europe International Business School. He is also a senior assistant professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at Ashesi University, Ghana. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, Caleb.
Doc, I know the China-Europe International Business School tries to produce innovation-oriented managers.
Right.
What does it really take?
What we've realized is that a lot of managers get very comfortable managing on a daily routine.
Right.
And forgetting that they also need to be preparing for tomorrow. So we're trying to get them to shift the mindset and also focus on developing new ideas, thinking about how to reposition the business, if they will, in the next business cycle or the next phase of the life cycle of the business.
Right.
So we
So it's a mind shift.
It's a mind shift and maybe a reminder as well.
Right.
Because what happens is, if managers get comfortable managing and don't sort of get into innovating,
Yes.
then they run the organization to the ground because they are not prepared for competition. They're not prepared for new areas that are springing up. They're not prepared for changes in customer tastes and preferences.
So in other words, focusing on today but having an eye for tomorrow.
Focusing on today's business whilst preparing for tomorrow's
business. Do you think people are hardwired to be entrepreneurs? I mean, when you talk about having a mind shift, I'm just beginning to wonder.
It is true. For entrepreneurship, there is a mindset and a skill set.
Okay.
That you can look at it from that perspective.
Okay.
A mindset and a skill set.
Okay.
The mindset is more attitudinal.
Yes.
And some people could have certain attitudes.
Yes.
The way they look at the way they look at risk.
Yes.
May be very different. They have a little more optimism about things. They are confident about the decisions they are making.
Right.
Such people are normally successful entrepreneurs.
And these are all mindset issues.
These are all, it has to do with mindset,
Yes.
which could be reoriented, if you will.
Right.
So you can say that there are people with the mindset of entrepreneurs.
Yes.
There are people with mindsets that help them become successful entrepreneurs.
Right.
I wouldn't say people are hardwired to be entrepreneurs, because there are entrepreneurs who don't have the mindset and so don't struggle.
Right.
And there are people with the mindset who are not entrepreneurs and do very well in business as well. Or not well if the business does not accept risk taking and the entrepreneurial behavior. So it is true there are people with certain attitudinal sort of compositions that you can learn from and teach others without those attitudes to pick those attitudes and become better entrepreneurs.
Okay, Doc, let's wrap this up. Should businesses budget for innovation? Because you've got to try things. It might cost you some money.
Innovation is expensive, and businesses which want to innovate need to put money aside for trying things. If the business is looking at innovation as preparing for the business of tomorrow, then what it means is that they're looking at it as a strategy. Strategy needs a budget.
That's right.
So I think businesses do need to put money aside for their innovation strategy.
Yes.
Because they are going to do research. They are going to build prototypes. They're going to test things.
Right.
All those things cost money. And so once they first look at innovation as strategy, then it's easy to put a budget to it and then run it through like they run the other aspects of the organization.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Doc.
You're welcome, Caleb.
We've been talking to Dr. Gordon Adumja. He's a visiting professor at the China-Europe International Business School and a senior assistant professor of entrepreneurship and innovation at Ashesi University, Ghana. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Now to the quiz of the day. If a business is struggling in meeting its objectives, where should we look first to try and fix it? Is it A, training, B, the vision, C, the strategy, or D, policies and procedures? The correct answer is C, strategy. Now to the business tip of the day. Once the objectives are clear in a business, if they are not being met, the place to look at is strategy. It is only when strategy is right that we can begin to look at the other things that promote or help business success. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back, viewers, to our book review segment. Today we are reviewing a book by Richard Dawkins, The Blind Watchmaker. And with me, I have Stuart Gold. Stuart, tell us, what did you benefit from this book and why must entrepreneurs read it?
Okay, I read this book back in the 1980s when it was written, and I benefited a lot from this book and other similar books. And I'm not sure that most entrepreneurs would read that, because it's not about entrepreneurship.
Yes.
What it's about, or even business, it's about evolution by natural selection. And being a science buff myself, and I read a lot about these sort of things, I feel that evolution is something that happens across the board in human life. It's not just something that happens to organisms, and that everything has to go through the process of a sort of selection process to succeed. So if you take it in the market, you take a particular type of car, if the car goes to market and is not successful because it's not selected by people or only a few people, then it's failed that selection process, which means that another vehicle, if the company knows that, they choose a different design, maybe try that, and if that works, then then the other one falls away, and that one will then spur new ideas, the ideas that work. And if you look at all the products we have today that have been instigated years and years ago, they're all an evolution of sorts. Computers, cars, fashion, and everything. It's an evolution of what happened before, based on market selection as opposed to natural selection.
Thank you very much, Stuart. All business therefore goes through an evolution process, a selection process. And that's how all entrepreneurs must be comfortable to evolve and to keep selecting, keep choosing until you get what works in your market. Viewers, we'll be right back. Well, viewers, this is where we end today's episode of SME TV, the program that brings you business innovation, information, and solutions. Until we come your way again next week, same time, my name is Caleb Aiku, signing off.